Give me a cue.
Usually it says recording.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Board meeting. It is Wednesday, December 6th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the first item is the roll call, and I'd like to start in the City Hall with Jenny.
I'm sorry, just introduce myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm Jenny Wilson. I'm a senior parks planner.
Hi, I'm Nate Clay and I am the youth representative.
I'm Chair Wendy Goodwin. Commissioner Hillary Dykstra.
Hi, Jen Burbidge, Director of Parks, Culture and Recreation.
Christiane Schaefer, Recreation Coordinator for Parks, Culture and Recreation.
And online, Commissioner Fosbury.
I'm Bill Fosbury, Commissioner.
I'm Aaron Wheeler, Park Commissioner.
And it looks like we have Sue online.
Yeah, I'm Sue Felash, Rec Manager.
And we, Aaron
Quinvalcio, Museum Curator.
And in our public today, we have.
Antoinette Martin, I'm auditing.
Thanks for being here, Antoinette. All right. And is there anyone else that I'm missing online? I don't see anyone. Okay. Now I'd like to move on to the land acknowledgement. The Parks, Culture and Recreation Board meets on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian tribe and Squaxin Island tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Treaty Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. Moving on to the approval of our agenda and minutes. It looks like we have the amended agenda that went out to everybody, so that should be in your packets when it was sent to you. So I'm looking for a motion for the approval of our amended agenda.
I move to approve the amended agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. A motion. Thank you for the approval of the amendment. All those in favor of the approval of the amended agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor of the agenda, say nay. Hearing none, is there any further discussion? I move to approve, or I approve the approval of the amended agenda should move forward. I've got my notes down. I've got it. Motion carries. Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the November 1st, 2023 minutes. Is there a motion to approve the November 1st, 2023 minutes?
I move to approve the November minutes.
Is there a second? A second the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Is there any further discussion? Motion carries. We approve the November 1st, 2023 minutes. Are moving on to item number 3. Are there any announcements for this evening? Nope. Hearing none, we will now move to public comment. Are there any anyone in the attending remote or in person that would like to comment this evening? A non-public? Okay, and I didn't see any public written comment.
I checked with our one public attending and they said no. So, nope.
I didn't receive any.
All right, and so since we have no public comment, we will move on to business items. Number 5. So we are doing our 2023 summer program data report given by Christy Schaefer of the Park Cultural Recreation Coordinator. Thanks for being here, Christy. This is a very exciting report. Thank you.
Hello. I'm gonna be presenting our data from the summer programs for Lacey Parks for 2023. This is just a picture from July 3rd. So the reason we started compiling all of this data, which is from our civic rec where we register people and staff insights. So the reason for it is to be able to have an organized location where we can get insights on our programs, our offerings, and help us inform our decision-making for future programs. For instance, by identifying popular programs and seeing areas for improvement. Before we get into it, I'd like to say that there's a lot of charts, there's a lot of numbers, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on each of them, but if anybody needs more in-depth information, you're welcome to email me. I'm going to give a brief overview for each section of our department. And then again, if you have questions, feel free to stop me or contact me after this. So we're going to start with our aquatics programs. The graphs for most of these are going to look pretty similar. It's the same concept for each section of our department, just different numbers. So the first graph here we see is aquatics participation, and it's separated out by activity and session. So blue bars represent the average % of the registration that was full for each session. Green is the total sum of the participants that were registered, and yellow is the sum of waitlisted participants in each session. I would like to note with our wait lists, people can be on more than one wait list, so they might be counted twice in this representation.
They're just trying to get into any session.
Yes, exactly. Next, we have a similar graph, except this one shows the average base price of a class, and the green is the registration receipts. So that's based on how many people signed up. And again, blue is the percentage full for each class. So, overall for our aquatics, we had over 800, almost 900 total participants. That's how many people registered. And then we had 776 on the wait list. Again, could be counting one person more than once if they're on multiple wait lists. Our highest participant count was for our level 3 swim class that had almost 300 people, and level 4 had the lowest at only 5. Our highest wait list was for swim lessons level 3 at about 430. And level 3 wait list. So there was 1.5 times the people on the wait list that were actually participating. So very, very large wait list for that. And then over 3 times on our wait list for level 1 swim. The average % full for all of our sessions in aquatics is about 81%, with most of that being in our level 3 swim again. The average base price for any given session was about $40.50, with the lowest base price being at Family Swim. And our total registration receipts for aquatics for summer was over $34,000. We had only 8 empty sessions. Level 3 swim and fitness had no empty sessions. Level 4 swim had the highest at 3, so about half of the level 4 classes were empty.
What age group is level 4 usually? Or does it vary?
It varies. It's level 4 is the one level that they have to pass with skills to get into.
Yeah.
So that's why, but I would say it's probably 10 to 13 is usually the age.
Okay.
Any other questions? Moving on to sports. So, we have a similar figure as we do for aquatics. Again, blue is the percent full, green is the total participants, and yellow is the wait list. And then here again, blue is the percent full, green is the registration receipts, and yellow is the average price. So for our sports this summer, we had 750 total participants, 13 on the wait list. One thing to note about our sports numbers is that some of these are registered by teams. So if you register one team, it's just going to show up as one registration, not as how many people are on that team. So there's actually more people. For instance, like the 10U tournament, even though the participant count is only 15, that's 15 teams.
Oh, so it's like over 100.
Right. Our highest wait list was for Little Lacy Baseball. They had 9 people in there. Pickleball was the second highest at 3, and then our Master Nas martial arts class had 1 person. The average percent full for each session was at 44. Our Little Lacy and T-ball had the highest percent full at 98. Sorry about that. Our average base price was about $152, mostly because the sports tournaments have pretty high prices, like $600. The total registration receipts for sports was $95,833, with the Skyhawks camps generating most of that. And then our total empty sessions for the summer were only 6. And that was the adult volleyball, cross country, and some pickleball.
Can I ask, what the cost of camps is about $600, did you say, or what was
The cost for the tournament
Oh,
registration is $600.
for a whole team?
Yes.
Oh.
And this is adult and youth together, is that correct?
Yes.
This is all of sports.
This is all of sports. So next we're moving on to youth and teen programming. This is community recreation programming, so not including sports for teens and youth. Here we have, again, blue is the percentage full for each session, green is the total participants, and yellow is the waiting list. And then here we see again the percentage full in blue, the average price in yellow, and the total registration receipts in green. So for our youth and teen programming, we had about 1,514 participants and 193 on the wait list. Our summer fun day camp had the highest participant count at 653. And CIT, which is our counselor and training program, had the lowest at 3. Our highest wait list was for Playground Pals, which is another summer day camp. Our summer camp had 48 people on the wait list. Our Art for Kids camp had 6. TC Media classes had 3, and Teen Camp had 1. The average percent full was about 79%, with Playground Pals being the most full at 95. Our total registration receipts were over 177,000, with the average price being about $171. And over all of our programs, we only had 4 empty sessions for this. which was 1 teen adventure camp and 3 for chess wizards. I would like to note that Playground Pals, you'll see it has the lowest average price. That's because it's funded by a grant, so registration for people is free. So it's free for them to participate. Any questions on this? Moving on.
One question. Are we doing a different budget for Playground Pals for next year? I know its registration's free, but we still have folks that couldn't get in.
Yes, that would be a question for Cody, who is our supervisor for the youth and teen and community recreation. I'm not entirely sure about what our budget for next year will look like for that. Do you know?
Well, I do know we'll need to evaluate the grant funding that we got for last year. And we'll need to look at what the parameters were. So it's possible we can open up more spots depending on what the funding looks like for the program. And would try to do so if at all possible. So.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Okay, for our adult cultural classes over the summer, we only had these 4, which are 2 belly dance and 2 taiko drumming classes. So no waiting list for these, and blue again is the percentage full, green is the total participants. And then here we have the average price in yellow, and green is the registration receipts. So for our adult cultural classes, we had 37 participants, most of those in belly dance. Again, no wait listed. The average percent full was 77. Taiko drumming was 100% full. The average price was less than $40. Total registration receipts, $1,623, and there were no empty sessions. One thing to note for future presentations, we are now dividing our community recreation classes differently. So it'll be adult, cultural, community recreation, and then youth and teen. And the community recreation will encompass classes that cover both youth and adults.
So what will the ages be for that if we combine them?
Usually they are 16 plus for the combined classes. All right, here we have our first aid and CPR classes. We have 1 month, so August, July, and June. And then here we see the base price again in yellow, registration receipts in green. So we had 21 total people participate in our first aid classes. July had the highest participation with 9 people there and 60% full. The price for these classes is $20 and $420 were received from the classes over the summer. These are our trips and tours. We have blue is the percentage full, green is total people to these meetings, and yellow again is the wait list. And here we see again, the green is the registration receipts and the yellow is the base price. So we had 34 total people go on our trips and tours this summer and 3 on the wait list. The most popular one was the Squim, thank you, Lavender Festival. We had the highest, yes, the highest participant count of 12. The highest wait list was for the Puffin Cruise. We had 2 people waiting for that, and the Squim Lavender Festival also had 1 person. Both of those tours had 100% full. The average percent full for all of them was 44%. The average price was about $60, with the highest price being $135. And the total registration receipts for the trips and tours was $2,693, with only 2 empty sessions. So as we move on to special events, because our events are open to the public and are not, do not require registration, we don't get numbers the same way we do for the rest of our program. We use clicker counter counts, so we count people using clicker counters and then average those numbers. So that's what you'll see here. The blue are the average attendance based on those clicker counters, and then this is for our summer Lacey and Tune and Play in the Parks. So because they're outside, we also look at the weather. And that's what the yellow line is. It's just the temperature in degrees. Any questions about this one? So for our Lacey and Tune and Play in the Park series this summer, we had about 7,600 people attend total. Our Friday concerts had the highest attendance at 2,400, or about 600 each concert. And our movies had the lowest at 950. We also did a similar count for our July 3rd. However, we also used a program called City Data, which is geofencing. They use phones to kind of pinpoint where people are. And that helped us estimate about 20,000 attendees at July 3rd this year. The average temperature was about 79.5 degrees Fahrenheit this summer. And the average attendance overall was, for our Lacey and Tune, was about 317. You can see kind of a weekly breakdown here where we have week 3 had the highest average attendance, but I'd like to note that the weeks have different durations. So some of them might have 6 performances, some of them might have 4. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. And then our Play in the Parks average attendance was about 312, where our Lacey and Tune was about 318. So moving on here, we're going to see some figures for the budget, but I'll go over the numbers once we get past these figures. Just so you know, the blue is the budgeted amount for spending, the orange is the actual spending, and then green is any income received. Same for this. This one is for our Play in the Parks. And then this is for 3rd of July.
You can see inflation did a number on us this year.
Yes, it did. So, for Lacey and Tune, we were over $24,000 over budget. So we budgeted $32,900 and then spent $57,432.70. But we also received $13,000 from sponsors and $600 from vendors.
What are professional services?
Professional services include a lot of things, mainly for this, it would be any performances or like if you we rent different games and experiences. So like the bounce castles and the slides, those are all under professional services.
I see.
If there were porta potties, a sound person that you contract out for, those kind of services too.
Audio,
Yeah,
visual.
the stage, all of those things.
Okay.
So that's why that's the greatest expense at about $30,000. Then we have Play in the Parks, which was $742.29 over budget. That one we didn't have a sponsor for in 2023, but I think we already have somebody lined up for 2024, or at the very least have people interested.
The 3rd of July.
For Play in the Parks.
Okay.
And then 3rd of July, $29,694.08 over budget. Again, the greatest expense was for professional services, which is the performances and all of that's where most of the money is going for these things.
So what happens when we go?
Yeah, so I was just gonna insert just a little bit of information here. So we in our department, we cover all direct costs for programs. So direct costs are staff that are on site at the event, not like Christianka's time as an FTE. But the staff on site, the supplies and the professional services. And so what happens is we come in higher on some of our revenues, and lower on others. For example, special events are highly subsidized because they're free, so we're
Yeah.
not bringing in any fees for those, but we still, as a whole department, we cover direct costs all in all. So our bottom line is that we're 100% covering the cost. So it's made up by other program areas, basically.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah, good question.
Any other questions about this page?
Will we, I guess, yeah, we're basing next year's budget off of how much we went over budget this year.
Right, so we adjusted our line items.
Yeah.
For the
Hopefully
2024 budget.
inflation Stabilizes.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
Oh,
geez.
and it's always helpful when we can bring in more sponsorship
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
money or, you know, and or vendor
Yeah.
fees. depending
Well,
on-
and based on what
depending on
you're
the event.
showing us, you're going, I'm sure some of the programs may change if we had no participation in certain things.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
if something wasn't working at a certain venue, we
Right,
may have to.
that's the goal of saying
See,
this,
Yeah.
is to be able to make
Eye-opening.
those changes.
That's good.
Okay, so this is an overview for pretty much everything excluding special events over the summer. So for all of our programs, we had 3,237 participants with 985 people on the wait list. Our summer fun tour day camp had the highest participant count and was 93% full. Our highest wait list was for aquatics at 776 waitlisted people. Our lowest was for first aid in our adult cultural classes. The average percent full for all across the board was about 70%, which I think is pretty good. Our average raise price was under $100. Total registration receipts for the summer was over 312,000, with the summer camp generating 115 of that. We had a total of 269 classes or sessions or programs that we offered this summer, and out of those, only 20 were empty. To break it down, out of 269, 139 were aquatics, 54 were sports, 62 were youth, and then the rest were cultural or trips. Any questions on this?
And are we taking into account the surveys that we've been doing in the community? Is that part, will that be part of this too, of what we're offering? Or what people are actually looking for? So
In terms of,
just opportunities to be in a class so they can maybe come off a wait list and move to another program. If we are offering something maybe.
yeah,
different.
so the survey data will definitely help the people creating the programs to look at what's a need in the community. It's not represented here because it's not part of our registration data, which is what this is. But it's definitely something that we'll be looking at.
For next year or next registration opportunity. maybe
Yeah.
Next fall.
I don't know exactly about fall, but
I don't know when it will come out or when the next registrations are available.
I can tell you for special events, all the surveys that we have done for the public, we've already compiled that data and have made notes on how to make improvements for next year. I can't speak to the rest of the department, but I'm sure that they're also looking at it and working hard.
Yeah, and one of the things that our marketing and metrics committee is doing, and that's a committee that Christianka takes a lead role in, is that what are those systems? You know, it's in the past, it's been pretty informal, you know, as to when we do surveys, but we're trying to, you know, do surveys more frequently and incorporate those surveys into what we offer in the future, along with the data.
Okay.
To help us with our decisions.
Yeah, I just feel bad people on wait lists or we don't have session or people aren't attending any of the sessions. So this kind of like want to make sure we're hitting the right targets or.
I wonder how many of those. So, cause you said some folks on wait lists are on multiple wait lists,
Mhm.
so that maybe they get into one, but they're still technically on other wait lists. That would be interesting to know how many people on multiple wait lists actually are getting into the program eventually.
Yeah, we are limited by the program that we use as to how in-depth we can get with these numbers.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a good point to look at. Anything else? Well, that is all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christianka.
Thank you very much for all you and your team do. I enjoyed my lit and my PIP this year.
Oh. Well, we were happy to have you. You were a big help.
Loved it. I had so much fun. I got to do the paper airplanes. So yeah, I got to participate. It's wonderful.
Thanks, Christy, and you're welcome to stay, but of course, if you have other things, you're welcome to go.
But thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
Tell everyone hi. Thank you.
Thank you.
You need your.
Oh, I gotta get back on my notes. All right, and moving on to item 5B, the 2023 accomplishments from Jen.
All right. It's my pleasure to present and review the 2023 Parks Board accomplishments. I'm gonna pass me the. Guess I can come over there too. Pass me the mouse. Thank you. First. So in your packet, you will see these accomplishments. So these at the top are the accomplishments. We have other noteworthy items that are of note. These are either, you know, by the Parks Board or by staff. And they're not necessarily, you know, checking something off, but they're definitely worth noting. So, and this is what will be shared along with the work plan at the joint work session coming up in January. So the items that were checked off: completed the 6-year update to the Lacey Parks Cultural Recreation Comprehensive Plan, created a Parks Cultural Recreation Enhancement Program, policy and review process for donations and other requests, created a Parks volunteer program to include a policy and procedure manual and onboarding handbook for volunteers, updated the sponsorship policy along with the Commission on Equity, as you'll recall, to include a review process to ensure alignment with the department's mission, vision, and goals. Updated the financial assistance policy, formerly called scholarship policy, to better communicate its purpose and make it more accessible for community members. You updated the RAC financial plan and redesigned park rule signs. So I think we should pause and just do it's a lot.
It is. And speaking of it's a lot, they created a Parks volunteer program to include the policy and procedure manual. Is that online? Can you pull that up?
No, I don't think it is.
I haven't seen it,
No.
so I didn't know where we were, if there's a way I could get a copy of it or what
Yes.
programs are available in that. I would really love to see it.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
If we get that, I would, since we created it, I would love to see it in its glory.
I had a question I meant to ask Christy, but the financial assistance policy, do we know like how well we did this year in distributing?
Yes, so right, so you'll get a report out on that.
Okay,
It's not quite ready yet.
Okay.
It usually comes in February or March. It comes along with the annual report.
okay.
So yes, you'll get to see that. You'll probably remember Sarah Smith, the executive
Mhm,
assistant from before.
Yeah.
Who did that. So yeah, we'll make sure you get that information. Other noteworthy accomplishments, as I said before, it's important to look at some of the other things that we did. Significant progress made on the wildlife information at Great Cuyo Park, published the 2022 annual report. Significant work toward 90% design for Great Cuyo Park, phase 1A, received just barely under $1 million in grants for that project, 500,000 from RCO and just under from the Department of Commerce. Received 15,000 from the Washington State Historical Society for a diversity in local history grant for an oral history project. And this one also, our museum curator is raising the roof over there. This one also goes on the Historical Commission's noteworthy. It's kind of a shared
Love it.
Shared one, received $6,000 for the financial assistance program from the Park Foundation of Thurston County. We added a new position, senior parks planner. Virgil S. Clarkson Senior Center celebrated their 20th anniversary. So that was a big deal. There was a free little library added to Wonderwood Park by a Girl Scout troop through our new enhancements program.
And I stock it with books all the time. I love it.
Oh, good.
You're the one.
We celebrated volunteers thanks to Jenny's efforts in her
Yay.
role before this new role.
Thank you, Jen.
Volunteers at the department's first volunteer recognition event. Implemented civic clerk for agendas, minutes, and bookmarking videos, and so we've come a long way thanks to the efforts of our staff. And we do have still more to come on that, but that was a significant and heavy lift. Advocated and were successful in getting an upgraded bus stop near the rack.
Yes.
We discussed dog-related issues with Animal Services Director, and significant work has been done by staff, and you'll get to hear a report out today of some of that. It's Jenny to gather and present data for better understanding of the challenges. We received 2 stadium bleachers through the Parks Enhancement Program. Those have been hugely helpful already at our park sites. We received a commitment of $110,000 toward the playground replacement at Bush Park from Gateway Rotary. We received a commitment of $25,000 toward the construction of new pickleball courts at Rainier Vista from the Thurston County Pickleball Association. Due to continued partnership and advocating for recreation needs, the Nisqually Indian Tribe Quaymuth development concept options include an indoor recreation area. Thought that was noteworthy. Adopted a land acknowledgement process for Parks Board and worked with Thurston Regional Planning Council on a regional trails plan.
Will the
So-
indoor recreation area be like fee-based or will it be like an indoor park?
So that is yet to, we do not know yet.
Okay.
We just know that the Quaymuth area that the Nisqually Indian Tribe has shared, they've shared out a couple of different concept plans.
Yeah,
One of those is heavy recreation and one of those is heavier on the commercial,
okay,
but both of them will have some recreation components.
yeah.
And they did mention that they are still very, very interested in the indoor sports facility.
Oh, cool.
So back in 2018, we did a feasibility study for indoor sports, and it was found through that study that yes, an indoor sports, complex is needed here in
Yeah.
Lacey. And the best path forward, the most valid partner that could come to the table was the Nisqually Indian Tribe. So they circled back just recently in a meeting and mentioned that
Neat,
and that work that was done. So, yeah, but it's up to them
yeah,
what they decide
sure.
to put on the property. And so I am looking for approval of the accomplishments so that we can take those on to city council.
Alright. Do I have a motion for the 2023 accomplishments?
I will make a motion for the 2023 accomplishments.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion for the 2023 accomplishments?
Good job.
I know, I normally miss. Yeah, great work, everyone. I'm so proud of all of us. We made it. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. That is the approval of the 2023 accomplishments. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jen. And moving on to 5C, we're on the 2024 work plan given by Jen.
Okay, thank you again, commissioners. So before you is the 2024 work plan, and this is, delivering as promised after last month's discussion that Jenny led you through and review. We're looking for approval tonight of your 2024 work plan. And since you all went through it with the track changes last meeting, I wasn't planning to go line per line.
Yeah.
But we've incorporated the changes that you had suggested, and happy to answer any questions you might have, but looking for that motion tonight.
I do have one question for number 30 on the McKinney House. And it's kind of related to, it looks like the grants that'll be part of that. And then are we working with the historical commission on that as well? That a
Yes, absolutely. The McKinney House actually is appearing on both the Parks Board work plan and the Historical Commission work plan.
Okay.
Yep. Because for the Historical Commission component, it's more related to the historic preservation aspect. And with this work, under the Parks Board, it more has to do with looking at the full parcel, what the limitations might be for that site on how to move forward with the project. Okay. Oh, did I miss anything on that? Yep. Okay.
Hey, Jennifer,
Yes.
is that related to Robert McKinney of McKinney Appliances? I wanted to ask this question earlier.
No, it's not.
Okay, good. Because I would ask them for a donation if we could.
Oh. I mean, yes, it is. No.
The McKinney.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
So it's the Lois McKinney family.
Okay.
And we have a lot of information about it if you want us to send you any. Yep.
And then for anything that has the grant funding posted.
Oh, the
next-
pending?
Yeah.
Yes.
So will those move? I'm not familiar with the process for grant funding. So does that move to the next, move to 2024 if we don't get approved for it?
Or to 25, you mean?
Yeah, I mean 25, or how does it work for the?
Right, so, yeah, that's a great question. Yes. If you all, want it to move forward, it would.
Okay, so.
So, I
us
mean, there's
approved-
still, the reason things are on this work plan is because they're needed in the community. So even when we don't get the money, the need still exists. So yes,
We'll still be there.
we'll move forward.
I just didn't know when we would know or what the time frame for that. to be.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we are going to be applying for this project, actually for both of these. The applications are due in May of 2024. We wouldn't find out until the fall.
Okay.
So the projects themselves wouldn't be done, obviously, in 2024, but they'd be worked on, so.
So we would just.
And
move it to
that's why those are under the planning category.
I made that, I did that leap in my mind, but I was like, well, how do you work it for the grants? I didn't know how it transitioned from one year to the next, if it had to be done at a certain time frame before you can.
Yeah, it just depends on the grant. There's different timelines for different grants, but the two that we're gonna be applying for are on the same cycle. Unless we go for, there's a couple different ones we could go for. So Jenny and I are in the process of reviewing like what the criteria is and what we might be eligible for. So
I'm excited.
any other questions you can answer?
So we are needing a motion for the approval, or excuse me, the 2024 work plan. Do I have a motion for that?
I move to approve the 2024 work plan.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded. Hearing none. All those in favor of the 2024 work plan, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the majority ayes, motion carries. We have the approval of the 2024 work plan. Thank you, everybody. Moving on. Moving on to 5D, our 2024 Park Board's proposed meeting calendar, given by Jenny Wilson.
Okay, so we have the calendar for next year included. You'll notice, we have added a joint work session with Parks Board and City Council on January 23rd. The format will be a little different. All the advisory boards are going to be at this meeting for a short overview of accomplishments and the work plan. So it'll be Historic Commission, Planning Commission, and Parks Board. So since there's 2 meetings in January, we're proposing no February meeting. And then also due to vacation conflicts, we're proposing no April or July meeting, and then a September Parks tour.
What's included in the parks tour?
What,
We can determine that.
what would you like?
What would you like to
See,
We can go
Snacks.
there.
Snacks.
Snacks.
We don't want to ride in that stinky van again.
Hey, I did learn that the city council they rent a intercity transit bus. They get a whole bus.
Ooh, I would love to go on the bus.
Speaking
We
Wendy's
could-
language,
We could do a bus tour of some parks.
that might actually be kind of fun.
Yeah, get on buses and then go like right to the parks. See how all the bus routes work.
Yeah.
I may have set you guys up for a little too much, too high of expectations. But we can look-
No, I love that, a
Yeah.
tour of some kind. I mean, that's
Yeah.
great. I love
Yep.
it. I like getting out.
Everyone bring a picnic lunch.
Yeah.
in the past, we've liked to go to the locations that have the projects
Yeah.
happening. But we also, when we have, you know, particularly when we have new Parks Board members, you know, it's really what they want to see, you know, so.
I forget, will we be breaking ground on the Greg Cuyo Park at that time yet? Or is that next fall?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be a little too early for that.
And then for the work session, since it's changing its format, is there a decision on how it's being presented? Would it be the chair, vice chair? Do we vote who gets to do the presentation? How will it work?
So Jenny and I will need to start work on that right away, since it's earlier than we normally have it. So, we'll need to just reach out. It's typically, yeah, in the past, when we've switched over the chairs, we've had the person who was the chair from the last year do part of it, and then the new person do part of it, but you were chair last year as well, so you'll probably take the lead on most of it. I mean, everybody will attend.
Bill's raising his hand.
No, I'm just thinking it's a wonderful idea. I love this idea.
That you're gonna give it? That
No,
you'll give-
you're gonna do it. Chair
Oh.
from last year is the chair for this year.
So,
I love the schedule, by the way, too, because that April date was gonna be spring break. And my
Right.
wife would kill me if I had to attend a meeting, so.
And I'll be having a baby in April, so
works for
it
you.
works for me.
The July meeting fell on July 3rd, so we knew that was a horrible idea.
That's our biggest
Yeah.
event.
It's nice to have a break in the summer just because
Right.
schedules are so wonky.
Okay, so we are looking for a motion for this.
The youth represent,
So for the January 23 work session,
Oh, yeah.
as my title is a youth representative, would I go to that meeting? Do I count for that or? Would I go to the
Yes.
23rd meeting? Okay.
We would love it,
That's-
and I don't know off the top of my head if the youth council is going to be there too. We're another role, but,
Don't think so,
okay.
maybe.
But you all come to council meetings regularly and give updates,
Yes.
so, yeah, we would love it if you joined us. for
I know
that.
the youth council has a work session, but I'm not sure if it's the same one
Same
as
day,
that one.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, as Jenny said, this is a new way of doing it, and keep in mind, this is what I wanted to make sure and tell you. It's gonna be a lot shorter than we've done in the past, so it's like 30 minutes for Parks Board total, so.
Are we
It'll
asking
just
the
be
council
bullet
to
points.
approve anything at that time or? Oh, okay.
Yep, so every year they approve the accomplishments from the past year and the work plan for the new year.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep, for all the commissions.
Okay, what we just reviewed and.
Yep,
and you'll give me a script.
yes.
You will be prepared, don't worry.
Okay, thanks. I'm never,
Do I have to dress up?
Yes, you
don't-
need to shave, Commissioner Foster.
And a tie again? Oh,
So actually, we would love it if you could join us in person. You do, as always, have the
I will.
hybrid option, but yeah, we would really love it if you could come in person.
Yeah, it's cougar themed too, Bill. You gotta wear a cougar gear.
I know
Yeah.
you have some, you gotta have some somewhere.
I do, because I have two cougs in the house.
Oh.
It'll
There
be
you go.
after the national championship, so it'll be good. Okay, I move to approve the new 2024 meeting calendar for the Parks Board.
Do we have a second for the,
I second.
is it okay if the youth council?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
all right, I want to make sure before I move
Yep.
on. All right, so it has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the calendar for 2024 for Parks Board? Hearing none. All those in favor of the 2024 Parks Board proposed meeting calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The majority is ayes, the motion carries. Our 2024 Parks Board meeting is approved. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to letter E, our 2024 budget requests given by Jen Burbidge.
Yeah, so this is just an opportunity for us to circle back and let you know which budget requests were approved for 2024 pending council approval of the full 2024 budget, of course. And that'll happen on December 21st. But since we show you the budget proposals that we put forth, we thought we'd circle back and show you which ones are going to be approved. So, and I know the most about the RAC and the Lacey Parks Culture Recreation requests. This is a holistic look at some of the requests that came out of like parks maintenance and also out of our facilities section. As you know, some of the staff in the parks, the holistic park system are under Public Works. So anyway, we put it all together. And so it's just a brief overview of what's getting put forth. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can, if you have them. Of course, some of the project ones go along with the work plan items, right? So you'll recognize some of these projects that we've already talked about.
These are requests that we are. Is there like a budget we're measuring these against, or are these all within the limits of our 2024 budget?
So the budget that the Parks Board recommended are like the regular line items.
Yeah,
That we did. The proposals are separate,
oh,
so they go forward. They're something that's different or outside of the
additional.
right. We'd get additional funding for
Oh,
the project, or some of them will end up going into the general fund ongoing budget,
okay,
just depending on what they are. Some of them are one time, some of them are recurring.
okay.
And some of them again are waiting for the grants.
Some of them are waiting for the grants, that's correct, yep. And some of them are not approved to move forward, so. So these are the ones that didn't move forward, and again, like I said before, just because the funding isn't approved doesn't mean the need isn't still there. So, for example, Longs Pond dock replacement is going to need to happen, so it just won't happen in 2024. And same with the replacement of the hardwood floors in the community center. You know, that's gonna need to be done. It just didn't move forward this time, so.
And,
So what we do with these is we just kind of reevaluate and
okay,
Ask again next year.
ask, do the best we can. If, you know, if something has to be taken offline, then we do that for safety reasons.
yeah. Does this mean we'll be short, temporary seasonal labor? Or,
Yeah, so this one came through Public Works,
yeah,
but we thought you might be interested because it's, you know, related to the park system. And so Do you have more
recall-
information about this
I
one?
remember Jamie talking about this and that this was related to, they did a salary survey and they increased all the temporary seasonal wages across the board, and I think this was an increase to cover that.
Oh, not adding more people.
Right.
But increasing their
Increasing
wages.
the budget to cover the wages that they've already guaranteed, so.
Oh,
This does, I did ask, and it doesn't mean that they're gonna reduce their wages, so I'm not sure if this means they're.
So they may have figured out something
Something
else. They may
else.
have been able to balance within
Okay,
their own
okay.
budget or something to that
Okay.
effect, so.
I see. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So anyway, it's mostly just for in your packet in case you wanna.
We don't need to take
For
action.
information, no action needed. Yep, we just wanted to circle back.
You wanna make a contribution, do sponsorship of Harvard.
My house is, of course.
Thank you, Jen. All right, we're moving on to 5F, off-leash dog data presentation by Jenny Wilson.
So, off-leash dogs in parks, it's been an issue on your work plan for some time. I'm excited to finally talk about this, and I've done some research, collected data, and now ready to talk about the findings. So just a quick review of the challenges. I think you guys all remember, but we've had public complaints about it.
Have you shared that to the webinar?
I don't know. Are you guys seeing this on the webinar?
No, not yet.
Well. That's hard. See it now?
That's a big negative.
Okay.
It's hiding. It was down there hiding from you.
Right.
There's so
Well, we're
many.
Affirmative.
So many screens, so little time.
So excited, I forgot the most important step. Okay, so our challenges related to this are the public complaints. As you recall, we had Joint Animal Services come in and talk to us about it. They're the ones that really take the lead on animal-related issues. But they're dealing with a significant staffing shortage, and they really can't deal with any enforcement related to off-leash dogs at this time. Most of our parks are unstaffed, leaving users to follow rules at their discretion. Based on maintenance staff observations, people continue to take their dogs off leash even if staff are on site. So just a quick review, I went back and looked at all of our previous meeting minutes and public comments over the last 3 years. And we've had 9 complaints over the last 3 years, so I won't go into detail about them, but it's an overview of what they have been. I will note that it is possible that I haven't captured all of the complaints. And while the complaints are passionate, they are fairly low in number. And there was one dog that attacked another dog and one squirrel that was killed fairly recently by an off-leash dog, so. Data. So I feel like before we start working on a solution, it's really important that we understand the scope of the problem beyond just complaints, and I'm very excited to collect some data, but it's a little challenging to collect data on off-leash dogs, but I did schedule part-time staff. It was at a perfect time when this came up because our swim lessons were ending, day camp was ending, and we had some staff that really wanted some hours. So we scheduled them to be out at parks observing, not correcting, but really just observing for off-leash dogs out at parks. We sent them to the parks that were identified by maintenance staff as the most often used for off-leash parks. We scheduled them in 2-hour shifts. We sent them at various times, evenings, mornings, afternoons, weekends, and weeknights. So it was August 25th through September 20th. Not that whole span, but various times during that. They were out for a total of 96 hours with the park that they were at and the hours that they were at each park. So how many off-leash dogs did they find? So they saw about 3,500 park users. Most people had no dogs, about 3,100. About 330 had on-leash dogs and about 84 off-leash dogs. So this little blue sliver is causing quite a few conflicts for us.
Oh, can I make a comment? That's, if we were just to look at the total number of dogs in the park, that is 20% of dogs are off the leash, which I think is pretty significant.
Right, okay. So off-leash park users. So since parks were observed for various hours, I broke this down into an average per hour. It's also a good way to understand how it might actually feel while you're at the park for an hour or two, what you could really realistically expect to run into. And yes, I do realize that it's really impossible to run into 0.67 of a dog at William Bush Park. But it's the only realistic way to average out how many dogs when you're looking at different hours. So Wonderwood Park and Rainier Vista were the ones with the most average off-leash dogs. And then I asked staff to keep tabs on nuisance dogs, and I asked them to, those were defined as dogs that were outside the voice control of their owners. So that was dogs that ran up to other people or dogs even in a friendly manner. And there were no aggressive dogs observed during this time. But there was quite a few dogs that were running up to people and were not within the control of their owners. And so there was 5 at Wonderwood, 1 at William Bush Park, 2 at Woodland Creek Park, and 1 at Rainier Vista. It's also interesting to note that at each park there were some hot spots that people were taking their dogs off leash. At Rainier Vista, this is one of the soccer fields, and it's the one that's a little bit sunken, or I guess sunken is the word. And so I think people were using that one perhaps because it's a little bit of a natural barrier and maybe their dogs aren't running away. Or they feel like they're breaking a rule and they're hidden from rule breaking in there. I'm not really sure what they're doing. But
We can still see you.
I know. It's
Still
not
off
that sunken,
leash.
it's like 2 feet.
Yep.
And then also, interestingly, inside the baseball fields, and I think that was used because it's fenced. So they're keeping their dogs inside a fenced area. I don't know if that's for their protection, other people's protection. And obviously they're doing this when those areas aren't being used.
Yeah.
At Wonderwood Park, interesting, this area was being used. The backstop area is fenced, but the wooded area is not, but I
Kind
think,
of a natural barrier.
right, I think we found that just woods in general are kind of a natural barrier, maybe, I don't know, I think dogs certainly will run into the woods, but maybe owners don't think they will, I'm not sure.
Anecdotally, just because I'm at that park a lot.
You're right.
I've noticed a lot of people let their dogs off the leash when they're in the trail, like not the paved path, but the forest trails. Which to me is almost scarier because you don't see them coming.
Right.
Or
And I will say that Wonderwood Park is probably the most challenging one to have staff observe and get data.
So
from.
many entry points
Right.
and
So it's very
it's
possible.
hard to see the whole
not.
park, yeah.
And then Wonderwood or Woodland Creek, I expected all of it to be right in this area because I think this is where most of us think of the off-leash area, but actually there was quite a few people observed in, right in front of the picnic shelters. Would not be a discussion about dogs if we did not talk about dog waste. They observed 5 owners who did not clean up after their pets, and this was leashed and unleashed. Or no, I'm sorry, it was dogs off leash. It's difficult to know if they would have cleaned up after them if they were on a leash. In general, I did talk to Jamie, Oakland, and they don't seem to believe that waste is a problem at our parks. So just thought that was interesting. But I did ask them to keep track of other rule violations at the park, and I just thought this was really interesting that off-leash dogs for sure our biggest challenge, but smoking and vaping not far behind, people drinking amplified music, marijuana use, driving on sidewalk and grass. And just a note about that, I think that's people that were driving to like their picnic shelters to set up for a party.
Oh,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And then people vending and selling in parks. Ice cream trucks. Also, in going over this with Jamie, he did give me some information about graffiti, vandalism, and theft, which is pretty significant. This is for all of our parks, not just the 5 that we were collecting data at, so it's a little skewed in scope. And then I think it's important to just talk about what options people have in the area. So I put a map together. There's 3 dog parks in Olympia, and in Lacey, there's the one at the Waste and Recovery Center on Hogan Bay Road. And I hadn't been there, so I did go to that park to just kind of see what it was and is it meeting the needs of people here locally. And I did talk to some of the folks that were there, and most of the people that I talked to, obviously this is not data, this is anecdotal, but they would like more options. But one person who I talked to said that she will never put her dog on a leash, no matter what. And she does use our parks. So I think that's a real,
did you say why?
she doesn't feel like it's fair to put her dog on a leash. Just, she feels like she has her dog completely under control without a leash and doesn't need it. And so I think that's kind of the challenge that no matter what we come up with, we're gonna always be fighting against.
Sure.
Is. So did research on what other agencies are doing, and the takeaways that I learned are everybody has a problem with it. It's challenging. Takes a lot of attention to get the situation under control, messaging, on-site monitoring, communication. Just about everybody said enforcement needs to be part of the solution, obviously as a last resort. And some people, as with the woman that I talked to out at Hogan Bay, will refuse to use a leash. So moving on to some possible solutions, really based on what other agencies have said, is there's 3: communication and education, enforcement, and possible park enhancement. And the communication and education, that's, signage, positive informational posts, enforcement, that could be park rangers, citations, park enhancement, adding dog parks. So moving forward, we'd like to start with a communication and education campaign. Obviously, we're updating the rule signs. That's in progress. Work on a Leash Up Your Dog campaign. include signage in the hotspots, and that could be like additional A boards that we put out. And then the communication strategy with social media, and provide information on off-leash dog park locations in Lacey, obviously the one at Coconut Bay. And then include information in our newsletter, department newsletter, and Lacey Life, which is our citywide one. And then direct communication with the local homeowners associations, especially the ones around Wonderwood Park and Rainier Vista. So we would utilize, obviously, updating the parks signage, rule signs, but then also, if you remember, we left some marketing space for additional things that might come up. So this would be a perfect time to use that. And just a little bit more information on what that could look like is the positive Leash Up Your Dog campaign that we could use in that marketing space is, here's a sample that Olympia did, which of course we do something a little bit different, but you know, they're using a dog and like the dog is talking, this part of my peaceful sanctuary, thanks for being on your leash. So, you know, not threatening, not, you know, just a rule sign, but something a little bit more positive. And then this is a sample of something that was in our Lacey Life newsletter that was, you know, putting information, dogs can get spooked, they can be unpredictable, kind of the educating people on why they should keep them on a leash. So that would be more communication going out, Facebook, and in our newsletters.
Another maybe dot point you can put on there is just like culturally, there are some cultures where dogs are considered unclean. Like it would be highly offensive for a dog to come up and like touch someone or lick them, and
Right.
just I think cultural sensitivity, however you would want to put that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So we also have some. So obviously the two other potential solutions are enforcement and park enhancements. So enforcement and park enhancements are more long-term, higher cost solutions. They're going to involve staffing and budget requests and more research and collaboration with other departments within the city to determine feasibility. So near term, we're planning on implementing the education communication strategy and assess that before moving to other options. So I guess in summary, after learning about the data, just want to review kind of the scale of our problem, which I do realize that it is a problem, but you know, I think our complaints are fairly low. People are fairly responsible with their rule breaking, which I know sounds counterintuitive, but they're taking their non-aggressive dogs in low populated areas and cleaning up after them. So near-term solution is to communicate, try to get them to change their behavior. And then if that doesn't work, then look at more long-term solutions. So we'll continue to monitor, potentially collect more data, see if it's changed, and report back. And then also, you know, there is a planned dog park in Greg Cuyo Park, so future phase.
I was gonna ask I was just thinking about as our population grows and like probably I feel like housing, personal outdoor space, like big backyards is shrinking. And so you have people in apartments, townhouses, or people just like really small backyards. They don't have, like there's 4 places in this whole area where you can let your dog run free lawfully. And so I just wonder if future planning, we can consider, like you said, park enhancements, like creating space in as many parks as possible. Specifically for dogs, because I think it's just only gonna get more busy with people and their dogs.
I think that is part of the problem, is that there's more dogs. People are getting dogs way more frequently
Yes.
in smaller houses. There's less property. I think you
Yeah.
kind of hit the nail on the head. And people want their dogs to run and get exercise, so
Yeah.
that is, yes. So I do think we need to look at that, and I think we do have some models where we've seen that. We have some solutions in mind, but it's gonna take some funding and some
Yeah.
things that we're just not prepared to do yet.
We could do like temporary dog days in the park where we put up a big fence and then kids and dogs can
Right.
come out every
Right.
one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the things that has kind of come up, is like they're kind of creating their own temporary dog parks inside the baseball fields.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we make that okay, but
Yeah.
is there a way to?
Was designated day where people would be aware so they know that the dogs have an opportunity to run at certain times or designate a space for them to do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just so the rest of the community knows if other people won't do what they're supposed to do, people who wanna do what they're supposed to do, if they have the opportunity to know that it's happening. They'd be
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not going to that part of the park today because I'm with my children. I don't feel comfortable with that there's designated times.
I mean, I think the amount of complaints we get is probably, I don't know, I feel like I hear people complain about dogs off leash, but they're not gonna take the extra step to complain about the park, cause it's
Right.
kind of like, well, it's annoying that people do that, but it's not worth,
Right, same with
complaining.
smoking. Why are people complaining about the smoking or smoking marijuana?
but it's
Like,
annoying all the same, and
Right.
like, you've stepped in poop several times at Wonderwood Park, and I was reading on Reddit, I was like, what are people saying? Like, I didn't know where to look, but it was interesting just to see the conversation of people, why people who own dogs actually really want other dog owners to put their dogs on leashes, because they may have a dog that is skittish or aggressive. And when it's on the leash, it's fine, but if another dog were to come up to it, there would be a problem. And so they feel like, I'm doing everything I can do to be the responsible pet owner, but others are not thinking, like, so it's kind of a safety issue
Right.
too. And then, yeah, I mean, my son is terrified of dogs. It doesn't matter how much a dog owner says, oh, she's really nice, you can
Right.
pet her, she loves kids. He's
the-
like,
The
"No."
friendly dog running up.
Yeah,
is
it's
friendly in the
terrifying.
dog's perspective, but maybe not the receiver's
Yeah,
perspective.
and so I think and for my son, if he sees that the dog is on a leash, he can relax, but if it's not on a leash, he's like panicking. Cause he doesn't know what it's gonna do, so I think it's not. Anyways, this is very personal, but I know that I think there's. Yeah, it just seems like people are becoming more sensitive to like how they're impacting others, which is kind of interesting, but. Yeah,
But I do like this process. I'm
Yeah.
going forward with at least getting the education and communication out, and starting there and
yeah,
working forward from there. I think it's a good start, and the new
Yeah.
signage will be helpful. It's got bright colors, so.
yeah,
And as you know, it's still on the work plan, it's on the work plan again for 2024, so
Yep.
we'll be
We're
circling
not
back.
giving up.
Yeah.
We're not stopping there.
Thank you, Jenny. Is there any other discussion on that before I move on to item G, 5G?
Commissioner.
I just want to thank Jenny. That is an incredible report. It's very difficult. It's political. It's community based. You put numbers together that really support, the thoughts that go into the recommendation. I just thank you very much.
And the people that
thank
you
you.
asked to go out and do all
Yeah.
of the observations and everything, yeah.
I love data. This is so fun for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes. Thank you so much. It's really great.
Thank you. Okay.
Alright, so our next item is G, 5G concessions and beverage agreements. And that's given by Sue.
So, good evening, everybody. So what we've got for you today is the 3-year agreement to run the concessions, the 2 concession stands at the Regional Athletic Complex, as well as 1 concession stand at Rainier Vista, which is located in the baseball complex. We'll start with those 2 and then we'll move on to the beverage contract. A little bit of history. When we opened up this park, we have a main concession stand in the baseball complex that has a hood and a fryer, and it is started out with a contract that was percentage based. And we were told by our finance years ago that it was too hard for them to monitor. And so we went to a flat rate. So this year's next 3 years, the concessionaire for the months of February through November, they'll be paying the first year $2,500 a month lease. Second year it goes to $2,650, and the third year it goes to $2,800. And that's for just the Rainier, or for the Regional Athletic Complex. And at the Rainier Vista, they will be paying $300 a month, plus they have to pay a leasehold tax, which is, I think, 12.84%. We have always gone this direction. Part of the questions that have come up is, how does this affect for food trucks or some of these other aspects? In any of our park facilities, due to our, based on our policies, they'd have to have previous approval to have a food truck or have somebody come in and do a concessionaire. We have had specialty tournaments. Janet Crater, when she did her national tournament, it was so large that they were not able to, the concession at that time was not able to provide enough service. So with their agreement, because it is an exclusive agreement, she was allowed to bring in some food trucks to offset because there were just so many people there at so much time. We've had multiple different types of concessionaires. We've had some that were family, basically business, and it was their own business, which was Jeff and Julie Walker. That did a fabulous job. We've had some businesses. There was the Skyhawks previously. We've had the last current one. This year we had 3 people come in with RFPs, which is the most we've ever had. And the one that we chose, the game time concessions rated, they were done. Julie, who is out the senior tech out at the rack, and Justin and I evaluated them, looked at their proposals. The game time came out heads and feet above the others. We'll take it over in January. They'll be taking over both the rack and Rainier Vista. So that is one of the things we do need you to, I guess, make a motion, or if there's any questions on them, or.
I have one question, I have a couple on the anticipated price change for 2024 and 2025. Do you know when do you get a notification that those price changes will happen?
They'll generally let us know that, hey, just like everything else, everything goes up. So I don't expect them to say a hamburger is $6 today, and then 3 years from now, when they're paying maybe twice as much, say it's still going to be $6.
And the other one that I had, does this contracts or any of the vendors that are coming into, do they have to go through the sponsorship policy that we just did?
We have not in the past. They are basically leasing out a space. They're not sponsoring an event.
Okay. So that we won't have any problems with that coming up again, where everybody understands all those things. You feel comfortable with that?
With the concessions contracts, we've never had, that's never come up. And I don't foresee it coming up with this one. And if they're not a sponsor. They're a contracted service provider.
Okay, so you kind of control at least that, the part where anything happens, we'd be able to say, can't have that going on here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. That was all I had after I was looking through it. I saw the replies that they had for everything and the questions that were given to them, and I just didn't see anything like what we have for the sponsorship. So if we don't have it, I just want to make sure anything happens, we have options. Yeah.
Yep, it's our
Yep.
property.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you, Sue, for doing all that.
Yeah, do you guys want to make or do what you need to do for those before I go on to the beverage, or do you want me to tie it all in together?
I think we'll do it all as one.
It's like,
All right.
Commissioner, you might have a comment or a
It-
question.
The beverage contract, we go same thing.
Hold on, Sue.
Yeah.
One moment.
So,
Yeah.
I don't see problems with the contracts themselves. But I did ask a question to Jennifer and Jenny. I don't understand how these contracts work with the food trucks and with the event organizers. Because a lot of times, you know, you got a little league ball team coming there and they want to sell their candy bars. And I assume they have to get a permit now because the exclusive concession agreement says only game time concessions can sell things. So I don't understand how that works. I know we bring food trucks in occasionally at the rack.
We've only brought them in for one tournament, and that was the one that I just mentioned when they were not able to accommodate the size of the tournament. And that exclusive contract was exclusive then as well. Agreed to let Janet bring in trucks because they knew with the amount of people coming in that they were not going to be able to accommodate. The group that's coming in now, I feel very confident. They're running the Kona Ice right now. They've got another business. They're very aware of what it's going to entail. We don't ever just have groups come in. We do in the past, say Cal Ripken, they wanted to do they worked with the concessionaire and they did a breakfast feed, a pancake feed to raise money. They worked with the concession. They were working with Jeff and Julie to accommodate that. And so they got a portion of it. So there's some working together. The tournaments directors are coming in and they're coming in to direct the tournament. They don't want to have to worry about who's going to make their burgers or if there's going to be food for those. We want to make sure that we have a high standard concessionaire because that helps sell the complex.
And I'll add too, real quick, we want to make sure that the concessionaire and just understanding there are other groups that want to do fundraisers, but the concessionaire really needs to do well for us to be able to keep them there.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that challenge. And we also want control over, you know, different permits that might be required, like the health department. You know, so that's why we don't just want anybody selling things in the parks. So just a couple of things to chime in.
Any other questions for us? Okay, so back onto the beverage contract. We have two groups that we've historically dealt with. Pepsi was the L&E bottling, or Pepsi, opened up the complex with us in 2009. When they did their initial investment, they actually gave us the $20,000 that we were supposed to be used for the signage, but it wasn't enough. And we used it by one of the gators and put Pepsi on their L&E logo on those. They had been our exclusive beverage provider for the two parks up until this last year. Coke put in and Coke won that contract. Coke decided not to renew and not to submit an RFP this year. So Pepsi was the only one that put it in. They are giving us $4,500. And there's certain products, indirect products that will be provided at the concession stand at no cost to us. They'll remain their property, like as historically what has always been. And then we will also get a percentage of their sales at the end of the year. And so what I would like to have is you guys approve game time concessions for Rainier Vista and the Regional Athletic Complex concessions and L&E bottling for the beverage contract.
Thank you, Sue. Are any questions for Sue for the beverage part? Okay. All right. All right, I will need a motion for the approval of the concessions and beverage agreements.
I move to approve the concession and beverage agreements.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
Got it.
Great. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. You have an approval, Sue, for the
Very
concession.
much.
Thank you for doing all the research and putting all our paperwork together. It's quite a packet. Look
Wow.
cute. And thanks for checking on all the snacks and making sure they're appropriate and getting the right people. Job well done. All right, moving on to reports. Number 6, commissioners. Does anyone have anything to report as commissioners this evening?
I do not.
Negative.
Okay, which comes to the chair. I have a few things, as always, for me. November 8th at the Timberland Library, we had the Immigrant Community Forum. If you haven't taken the opportunity to go to their forums, they're very good. We had people from Korea, China, Spain, Latino communities, got to speak English in different languages. It was awesome and just lots of great feedback from community members. They expressed their needs for resources, and having that safe platform to voice their concerns was really great. We need more of these.
How often do you have those?
They're on the Equity Forum website, and so they put them up. It's kind of, I don't think they have them set schedules yet, but
Okay.
it is through the Equity Commission. November 16th, the Regional Library, they have the Talk Time English Conversation Circles, helping community members have conversations in English. Their next one is December 7th and the 21st from 6 to 7. It was so much fun. It's a great time. And if you're bilingual, please attend. You'll have a great time.
Where is that? At the library?
On November 6th, or December 7th through the 21st, and December 7th and the 21st from 6 to 7. Great opportunity to meet community members. On November 21st at the Lacey Food Pantry, we served 491 community members with Thanksgiving meals through a drive-through process. It was a very, very, very busy day. We handed out turkeys and chickens. It was a wonderful day, and I want to thank all the staff and volunteers and donators who make that magic happen, because it was phenomenal. December 4th, Huntermore Park Christmas Tree Lighting Parade. It was an awesome event. It was a lot of turnout, 40+ parade entries. It was an honor to be a judge, so I'm so glad I got chosen to be a judge. I enjoyed meeting everyone. I want to thank Jordy, Christy, Sue. Thank you for running the booth under the canopy in the rain, and everyone taking me around and helping me navigate myself. The donuts, coffee, and cocoa that were provided by their church, that was awesome. And then the donut, I didn't write it down, but thank you, Donut Shop, that did the donuts for us, and managed the snack counter and Santa and Mr. and Mrs. Claus. That's all I have. So very proud of the city of Lacey for the November and December coming together for community members in need. It's been really, really amazing. So good job, Lacey. Anything for the recreation manager to report?
Yeah, I've got a couple things for you. We currently held the second round of interviews, December 5th and 6th for the recreation supervisor position. We hope to have a decision made for that by the end of the week. We did hire, and it was accepted, the offer was accepted for our recreation coordinator youth sports position. It was offered to Byron Schnazerman. He currently works for us part-time, and he's worked in the office during the summer. It's going to be a great addition, and he will be starting on December 18th. As you know, the Rack and the Rainier Vista concessions and beverage contracts are now going to be able to move forward. I have been meeting with all parties to assure that we will have a smooth transition. both for the beverage side as well as for the concession side. I've been working with, or will be working with Public Affairs for a communication plan for the Rack Gravel parking lot. As you know, they started work on that this last Monday. It will affect our parking for quite a few months, so we're getting some plans in place for that. And as of right now, when I just looked, we brought in $41,389 for the first day of registration. And I believe 30,000 of that was in like the first half hour. And a majority of it,
Today. Oh my
Wow,
gosh.
Sue.
and majority of it, which is kind of interesting, is it's great that it's still happening. Majority of our registrations is online.
Oh, great.
So the gals up front had a lot of phone calls, though. There's a lot of helping that goes on with that, even though it may not be online, they're having to assist, either getting them set up or do some of the other arrangements. But just kind of so you get a good ballpark figure of that 41,389, 36,299 of that was online. So all but $5,000 took place online today.
Mhm.
So people have really embraced the online component.
How long has it been online, Sue?
We
Were they-
opened online registrations probably 4 or 5 years ago. We really pushed it.
Right.
But you know, that's a huge amount of folks that are going online to register for programs. So
Yeah. Right.
other than that, as you just already talked about, we had the lighted parade. We had a signing Santa Claus last week, which is a great program for those that need assistance with signing and those type of things. We're having our Santa breakfast, which is this weekend. I think they've got like 400 people, something along that lines, registered for that. Actually 235 registered for that. So
Is
a lot
that
of going
is
on.
that one- is that one full? I don't think
Yes,
it.
I believe it's full, yes. And then I know these next few weekends, we've got some big tournaments at the Rack. The really nice thing about some of our winter softball folks is they do a lot of fundraising. So the last few tournaments have been set for Toys for Tots. So a lot of the players and the teams, they bring in a truck and everybody brings in their unwrapped presents, and they end up getting quite a few toys for and donations for Toys for Tots. That's it.
That's great, Sue. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Park maintenance supervisor?
Yes, we'll give Jamie's report. So they removed 355 yards of leaves from parks and right of ways. They decorated 6 vehicles for the lighted parade, which I believe they even won some awards for that. So
We sure
great,
did. Yay.
great decorating skills. One of the senior maintenance techs, Rick Hood, passed his certified playground safety inspector test.
Go Rick.
They resodded soccer goal mouths on the fields at the rec. They removed, or 8 hazardous trees were removed from Pleasant Glade and Wonderwood Park. Tree tissue and soil samples were sent to Washington State University to identify the potential causes of the mortality, which I thought was super interesting. Parks were fertilized for the fall season. Within the next month, 1,600 seedlings will need to be planted around the parks. So I'm working with Jamie to coordinate some volunteers once the delivery date is confirmed.
Oh, you can put me on that list.
Oh, I kind of figured. Also, they installed all the light display at Huntermer Park for the holiday tree lighting. They did that. And sadly to report, there was a holiday Grinch at Huntermer Park after the parade and tree lighting. Vandal cut wires and caused other damage at the park light display. They also broke several concrete planter boxes. The person was arrested after they were caught breaking into nearby business and breaking windows, so.
Will we get to hear about the UW's findings about the trees?
Oh, I can ask him to let us know.
I would be curious.
I would like to know too.
I didn't, yeah, it's killing our trees.
Hopefully it's not the one beetle.
I know.
Fungus.
It's hard to.
Actually, something just, sorry, I'm like in the middle of something just dawned on me. I was gonna ask at this meeting. We saw a report that they found a lot of
Right.
drugs in Wonderwood. Where was that found? Like, where, like a garbage can? Was it, can we disclose that? I mean,
It was in a wooded area.
it's in a wooded area.
Like on one of the trails. in the
Yes,
woods.
yes.
Another reason you should put your dog on a leash.
Yeah,
We got into that.
Right.
Like the drugs were just out in the open laying there.
they were in bags in a duffel bag or
Yeah.
backpack.
And did someone like to report the lot, the like the just the duffel bag being out there? Like, how do we discover it?
I'll send you an email.
Okay. Sorry, I know this is like, it just, when you just mentioned the woods, and I was like, oh, wait, that's the question I was gonna ask, so.
It's actually Jenny's report out. She was
Right.
gonna share that with you.
Oh, continued? Oh, okay, so my bad.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
I think it's the second time I've done that.
Do it, but I don't wanna, there's. Anyways, but that's the end of the supervisor report for parks maintenance.
Thank you, Parks Maintenance people, for keeping our parks safe and clean. I appreciate it very much. Senior Parks Planner, you get to go
Back
again.
again.
Come straight again.
Great. So, we're moving forward with the RAC kiosk project. The, Thurston County Historic Commissioner leading the project, and I met with the city building official and got the building plans approved. And we also got the building permit issued. They're planning on doing construction in March. And they may be looking for some skilled volunteers to help build the kiosk, so. We had an initial meeting with Community Economic Development Department on Hunter Park. We're already looking at a 2025 budget request for replacement of the climbing structure. And they may have some funding to be used towards the Woodland District improvements to maximize the park feature. Ken Balsley Memorial Bench will be installed soon at Civic Plaza. The dedication will be January 18th at 2 p.m. So park board members are encouraged to attend.
Will we get notified? Send us, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then the regional trail plan was adopted by Thurston Regional Planning Council. As you recall, Paul Brewster came to our November meeting and presented the plan. In 2024, they're going to evaluate how to implement the work program, and they plan to convene a trails advisory work group in 2025. We have 2 applications for a new Parks Board Commissioner.
Good.
Yeah. And so we have interviews scheduled for December 20th, and Wendy's gonna be on that panel. Then a large duffel bag of drugs was found at Wonderwood Park. It was hidden in the woods and it contained methamphetamines, heroin, and fentanyl, which is very disturbing. And so, police posted about it on their Facebook page.
And it was in the Olympian too.
Yeah, it was. And
Yeah, it was everywhere.
it was a large sum.
Are we getting any kind of public, like, outcry?
No, there was a lot of comments on the police Facebook page,
Yeah.
but nobody's reached out to us about it.
Okay.
So, it's a little scary, but.
Just super unfortunate.
Yes, yeah, I mean,
Disheartening.
And then lastly, just Liz Spiller, who was our department assistant, is leading our department's holiday spirit this year with our annual giving tree. So we partner with North Thurston Family and Youth Resource Center to identify students that need some support and gifts. We have 27 students this year, and the city employees are really overwhelmingly donating. We estimate that's probably $4,000 in gifts and donations collected for these students, and each one will get about 3 gifts plus some gift cards for food. So it's really, really heartwarming, and Liz is doing it all though. That's all I have.
It's amazing.
Does Liz, can you reach out to Liz if you want to do a donation to her or
Yes,
her
yeah.
email? Would you
Yes.
send her email to?
Yes, sure.
That'd be great.
and how do those gifts get distributed? You know, people who might benefit from.
Right, we, they deliver them, I wanna say, oh, Liz told me the day, and I can't remember. I wanna say it's sometime next week.
Is it the 15th?
Yeah, it's right before Christmas break. So it's gotta be.
I think the deadline is Monday, the 11th,
For donating.
for donating.
Right.
Yep, and then it's, that week there, everything's wrapped and then delivered over to, is it to the Family Resource Center?
Right, and
Directly?
initially we got the list of kids and
Yeah, do you know the Northeastern Public Schools Family Resource Center?
But
I think they're typically by the Northeastern High School,
yeah.
but I think there's some construction going on right there.
And initially we got a list of kids and their requests for gifts.
Are they all?
And we've
Okay.
gotten all the gifts covered and
Okay.
now we're just taking donations for extra gift cards for food.
And it's
other
for
things.
kids probably in the Northern School District.
Right.
Northeastern School.
Only
Okay.
school district kids, yep.
So the schools provide you with that list.
Yep, I think they work directly with the counselors to identify the kids that
Oh,
are
great.
most in need of.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any other items? And then the next meeting information is on your agenda for all things going on in the local area for upcoming events.
Oh, yeah, and I do have a director's report, just a couple quick.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I wrote all over director.
Hard to keep up when I
I've
talk
made
so much.
notes on it. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine,
Jen.
it's fine, I'll be really fast, I know it's getting late.
I'm so sorry.
I'll start with the worst news and work to the better news. So we unfortunately did not receive the funding from the Washington Recreation and Conservation Office for that local parks maintenance grant program. If you remember, that was a new program. It was up to $100,000 for deferred maintenance. We got 28, so the good and the bad is that there was $5 million available. And there were $16 million worth of deferred maintenance from across the state submitted. So that just shows you the need,
Yeah.
right? So I'm happy that we're part of that data to show that, hey, legislature, this is a need that local parks departments have. But we got 28th place out of 64 projects in the ground disturbing category, or tier 2, which is for the Wonderwood Park Trail and basketball renovation or resurfacing. We were tier 2 because of the ground disturbing component of it, which means it triggers cultural resources survey. So anyway, there was another tier, so we were 28th out of 64 in that category. The tier 1, there were 157 projects applied for and 39 of those received funding. So we had applied for this in September, if you recall. So anyway, just a quick bad news.
Will it be coming around again?
We're still gonna be doing the project. We were just hoping to get reimbursed for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it'll come around again. So what happened was state parks received $5 million last year, and then local parks were like, hey, what about us? So it was a program that was put forth through the Recreation Conservation Office, fortunately. So anyway, real quick, city council meetings. Oh, you may have noticed that work session, the joint work session date that we put forth is at the 23rd, is a Tuesday night. So council meetings pending tomorrow night's council meeting. The council is very highly likely to pass a change from Thursday night council meetings to Tuesday nights. So just a bit of trivia is that the other jurisdictions meet on Tuesdays. And so Lacey has been the only one that meets on Thursdays. So, and that's not the reason, but it's a reason to switch. But what happened is staff took a deep dive on the whole legislative process in Lacey and how much time was spent on particular topics and how many meetings were attended. The other thing that they're gonna be talking about is doing away with council committees. So as a result, if that happens truly tomorrow night, the work sessions will be longer, because there will be a little bit more business, since the committees are going away. So anyway, just to give you a heads up that that's coming up. I think I mentioned earlier, the final budget approval is scheduled for Thursday, December 21st. So that's coming up this month. And so then on a different note, for the executive assistant position, which is Sarah Smith's position that she vacated, we received over 60 applications.
Wow.
Interviews are next week on December 13th. So I've been doing a lot of work in reviewing those and um getting through that process. The good news is that it's gonna be highly competitive and
Lots of
a
choices.
lot of great candidates, so excited for that. Really exciting, Lacey Fire District 3, they have their Santa Mobile. And it's gonna be stopping at the following parks with an ETA of 7 o'clock PM on the following Friday nights, this Friday, December 8th at Meridian Park, Monday, December 11th at Rainier Vista, and Wednesday, December 13th at Horizon Point Park. That's an annual thing. There are other stops they make, but those 3 are the ones in our parks.
That's cool.
Will those post on Facebook
And
or if you're following Lacey on?
that's a great question. Do you recall if that goes out on Facebook, the Santa Mobile?
I don't know if it goes out on ours. I know I follow.
Fire
Fire-
district,
yeah, on
yeah,
Facebook.
probably on fire districts, yeah.
Oh, so
I just want to mention it since some of the stops are in our parks.
Okay.
So,
They are so great with kids. I had to call them last month because my son had a seizure.
Oh my gosh.
And he was fine, but they let my kids afterwards and everybody's okay. Check out the ambulance and the fire truck and they gave my son a teddy bear, like. Amazing.
oh, they are truly amazing.
Oh.
Like, come to the fire station when you're all feeling better and we'll let you like see all the fire.
And then my last thing is just a huge ginormous thank you. It's the end of a year, another year, I can't believe it. Just appreciate you all so much and what you do to help our park system and support us and support your community. So truly appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I tend to get a little emotional on these things, but just appreciate, you know, all of your time and all of your effort and just what you're doing for your community. Jenny put together some little goodies for everybody. So those of you that aren't here
I'm
in
gonna mail
person,
them. I'll mail them to you.
or are you gonna mail it? Okay, or you could bring it to the work.
I know where Commissioner Wheeler lives. Do you want me to just
Oh,
drop it
yeah.
off at your, you
Yes.
want me to just drop it off in your mailbox? Austin, does that work?
Anyway, we'll get
That's
those.
fine. Yeah.
But I just hope you know how much we appreciate you and everything you do, so.
Well, we
Thank you, Jen. We appreciate you.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual. Yes, thankful, grateful. Thankful, grateful. Okay.
Great job, Jen. Great job, Jenny. The last 9 months have been amazing. You're super professional, way better than Tacoma. I can just tell you. It's been amazing. And let me know if you need somebody to come to the budget or on the 21st to the council. If you need anybody to support you, just let me know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else before we adjourn this evening?
So.
Nope. Thank you, everybody. We'll call the meeting to an adjournment. It is 7:23 in the evening. Ooh, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great holiday season. Take care of yourself and your loved ones.
Bye, guys.
See you
Stay
next
dry
year.
and see you next year. Stay dry. Stay as dry as you can.
Thank you.
Watch out for big tree limbs.
Go Huskies.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah.